Hi everyone, this is Dimitri Pergamonic with MarketChameleon.com. I was going to do a scan using the naked put screener to show you how you could use the implied volatility and historical volatility to scan for puts, either look overvalued or undervalued relative to the historical volatility. So oftentimes traders, what they do is compare the current implied volatility of an option to how the historical volatility of the stock behaved. And let's just take a look here. I'm going to switch to this view, option Greeks and volatility. And here we see that this option over here are all the put options with the expiration and strike. And we see the implied volatility of the option. And next to it, we have the historical 20-day stock volatility and also the 1-year stock volatility as a reference point. And here we could see that this option is right now, and it is reporting earnings, so you expect the implied volatility to be high. But at this moment, the implied volatility of that option is 156. The historical stock volatility in the last 20 days is 57. So that's 174% above the implied volatility is 174% above that 20-day historical vol. And here the 1-year volatility is 72.4. So that implied volatility is 116% above the historical 1-year volatility. And now what we could do is just kind of use that as a scan to see very high implied volatility options relative to their historical levels or very low implied volatility. And let's just do that scan really quickly. And let's look at the implied volatility versus the 20-day volatility. And let's look for potentially very high, overvalued implied volatility relative to the 20-day. We could look something like above 50%. So we could scan out so here we see above 50%. And a lot of them are with earnings. So let's just take a look at options that the earnings are after expiration. So we take out the earnings. So here we go. So maybe something else is going on in those options and you'd want to take a look at it. But here we see that even though the 20-day volatility is very low, the historical longer-term volatility is higher. So that's another scan that we could do. And let's make sure that that implied volatility is above the 1-year historical vol. So let's just set that. Maybe let's put it to 25%. So here we go. Now we see puts that are that the implied volatility is higher than the 20-day and higher than the 1-year. Let's take a look at anything coming up in the next 30 days. So we could do that as well. So these are implied volatility, any options that expire within the next 30 days. And also here, if we know of any company event, you'll see that this little C there. And if you hover over it, you could see that there's a conference call here, July 31st, Bank of America Healthcare Conference. So that's another potential catalyst that could make that stock move. But these are options that are priced high relative to their historical vol. Now we could go the other way, and potentially you're looking for options that might be a decent purchase or undervalued relative to the historical vol. So let's just reverse that, and let's first set that the current implied volatility of the option is at a discount to historical volatility. Let's pick 15%, and let's also look for the 1-year. Let's make that 15% as well, see what happens. So now we get a list of stocks that the implied volatility relative to the historicals looks like it's trading at a discount. And then you could take a look at these options, and let's just let go of the earnings, because when you're buying options, you really don't mind buying relatively cheap options going into earnings. So I released that. So we see that there's 4,000 entries here. You could narrow it down further by just stocks in your watch list if you want to do that. Also, if you want to do by market cap, sector, stocks in a certain ETF, you could choose that. And any of these technical indicators, near 52-week high or low. There's also stock ideas here if you're looking for bullish ideas. Maybe then you could pick some of these options, looking for market leaders. Those are stocks that are responsible for leading the markets higher, or momentum stocks, stocks that are trending higher, setting higher lows and higher highs. Option order flow sentiment, or you have the moving averages, the way they're crossed on an uptrend, downtrend, bullish, in all these different option selections. So that's one way that you would want to use the scan to compare the implied volatility versus historicals to filter out potential put candidates on either that look overvalued or undervalued relative to the historical volatility. Thanks for watching, everyone, and see you next video.